Hello, everybody. Welcome again to another session of PlottCon. We'll give people just a second here to get in for YouTube to kick in and let people join. Says my connection is having problems. Anyways, hopefully that won't be a problem. But looks like some people have joined. So this session is about creating deep character arcs with Plottr, and so I'm really excited to show you how in Plottr you're going to be able to do that. So I'm just going to make myself small here and Plottr bigger. So I'm going to come at this assuming that you pretty much know how to use Plottr, but if that's not the case, if there's a lot of new people that have never seen Plottr before, let us know in the comments. Hey there, I see somebody saying hi. Hey Calvin, you've been at like every session. Thank you. And you've commented in just about everyone. Appreciate that. So yeah, if you're not familiar with Plottr, let me know, and I will kind of give more of an overview of Plottr. We haven't done that this conference yet, but if I'm going to come at this assuming you're pretty familiar with Plottr, and so I'm going to kind of skip that, the basics of Plottr. I'm just waiting a second here to see if there's any comments, but it looks like we're not going to get an answer. So, okay, so we're going to talk about helping you to have deeper character arcs using Plottr, and it's really simple, but there's different layers that you can go on to, many different layers, and that's where you get the power of Plottr and being able to see multiple plot lines at once, and you can do that very easily. Though it's really cool. So looking at Plottr here. So we've got the story of the three little pigs. We use this story often. It's a very simple story, quick to go through. Almost everybody is familiar with this story. And so it's a very easy story to teach about and with. And so we've got the main plot line here is the actual story. We've got a line for the wolf here. We've got a line for pig 1, 2, and 3. We haven't given them names or anything. It's just pig 1, 2, and 3. We should come up with names for them. Man, I'm blanking on the Three Stooges names. Larry, Moe. Man, I can't remember. Why can't I remember the third one? Anyways, Curly, Larry, Curly, and Moe. Geez, thank you. Larry, Curly, and Moe. Maybe we'll name them that. That would be, we'd be going for a comedy in that case. But anyway, so we've got a line for each one of our characters and a line for the main plot. Now, you don't have to do it this way. We like, or I personally like having a line for the main plot, but everybody does it slightly differently, and that's totally up to you. But in this case, this example, we've got a line for the main plot here. And just to go through the story and a little bit of detail here, three little pigs leave home for the wide world, right? Mom kicks them out or something. We don't know, but they leave home to seek their fortunes or to build their own homes or something like that. We don't even know that. So each one, this is what happens in their character arc. They leave home. That's all we know. So then they start building themselves homes. We don't know why. We don't know why they didn't buy homes or get jobs first or something like that. We just know that they started building themselves homes. So pig 1 builds a straw house. Pig 2 builds a stick house. And pig 3 builds a brick house. And then suddenly the wolf shows up. He's passing by the pigs' homes, and he smells some pigs and comes by. Again, we don't know why. And in fact, we know even less about him than we do the pigs. There's a big old hole here. Why does he show up? What's his backstory? We don't know anything. We don't know anything about him. Pig 1 is playing until the wolf comes, but then as the wolf, he sees the wolf, and so he runs and hides in his house, and the wolf blows down his house. Now, I don't know if you met a lot of wolves or seen them in action, but they normally don't blow down houses. But apparently in this house, without any world building or anything, wolves can blow down houses. So And I'm being really picky here and pedantic a little bit, but kind of on purpose and kind of just to be funny. Uh, but so then pig two runs the house of, or pig one runs the house of pig two. The wolf again blows down the house of pig two, a much stronger house, the house of sticks. And then they both run to pig three's house, who has a brick house, and the wolf can't blow down his house. So he gets angry, stomps his feet maybe a little bit. We don't know. And then he decides to climb the chimney. Why? Why? Why would he climb the chimney? Have you ever thought about that? Like what? I mean, bust in a window something first. I don't know. First, okay, he climbs the chimney. We don't know why or anything about that, but when he does fall down the chimney, we do know he gets burned, and in some versions of this, he gets boiled in a pot, and then he runs out the front door. So, maybe he had to unlock it when he's running out or something, but he runs out quickly before the pigs can do anything to him, and they live happily ever after. So this is kind of the basics of Plottr. This kind of shows you how you can show what is happening to your characters as you're building out your story, and you can kind of see a bit of their character arc, but not very much. It's just kind of very basic. It's more of what happened to them and not so much about the why or why that matters to them, right? And so I think because of that, there's some big holes here and big holes here and big holes all over here. So we don't know anything about what's going on in their head or in emotionally for any of these characters while that's happening. The wolf, why does he show up? Is this a drunken bet with his buddies? Is he trying to feed his starving kids? We don't know anything about that. The pigs, what are they doing with their brother? What are they doing while their brother is his house is being blown down by a wolf? Are they laughing at him? Are they cheering on the wolf? Are they telling him, get over here, you idiot, I told you not to build a straw house, get over here, come over here? Or are they saying, don't come into my house, you're gonna bring the wolf? There's a lot of different reasons that they could or a lot of different things that they could be doing, and a lot of different reasons for doing those things, and we don't know any of that. So so somebody said the screen is blurry. That's no good. Let's see if I can change that at all. What if I go to bigger? Nope. Smaller. That is so weird. Yeah, I think that's something to do with StreamYard. I wonder if nope, I don't think there's anything we can do about that. That's really frustrating. Sorry to hear that. We've had this problem on this platform before as well, and we're thinking about what to do with that. It's very frustrating. Let me try something, actually. I'm going to... No, I don't think that'll work. But let me just try this really quick. Stop sharing, and then share the screen again. What if I share the whole screen? Is that any better? That doesn't look any better, I bet, does it? I think that's maybe even worse. So let me just stop that. Start again. Yeah, that was worse. See Holly saying yes, that was worse. Okay, so what we're going to do is I will read anything that's pertinent on the screen so that you can see. Sorry that is happening. I don't know what's going on there. I wonder if just it's not letting us have as high quality as we need to, or if we have some setting wrong or something like that. But yeah, we're gonna. I'll read anything important so that you can see, so that even if it is blurry, you're able to see it, or if necessary, we'll put it in the comments. But I'll make sure to read everything. So thank you so much for saying that it's blurry, and for making us aware of that. Okay, so like I was saying, you've got a bunch of holes in here, and you don't know why these characters are doing these things, and At first, maybe you don't need to know why. Okay, maybe that's Three Little Pigs, the audiobook. Somebody commented. That's pretty funny. Yeah, I'll just give the audiobook version here. So you don't know why they're doing these things, and at first, maybe that's okay. Maybe um, you still don't know these characters, and you're still learning what's going on with them, and so you could probably get away with that at the beginning of the story. But by the end of the story, this part here, we just have no sense of why these characters are doing anything. And I'm not trying to be overly harsh about this Three Little Pigs story. It's just a fairy tale. It's just a little kid story. So it's not like it needs to be some bestseller or anything like that. So hopefully you're not getting that feeling from it. I am poking at it a lot, but just as education for educational purposes only, and just so that you can see, but not that this is not a good story or anything like that. You know, if I were doing this with somebody else's story, I probably wouldn't be as harsh. But that's one of the reasons we use this one, because we can really dig into it. So at the end here, we just really have no sense of why they're doing this, and so it's not really all that satisfying that they have a happily ever after. We don't have this satisfying ending because we don't have a sense of why or if it's changed them or anything like that. Even though you're using Plottr to kind of show what is happening to them, you're missing a piece, and it's their why. Their why is really important. And so I'm going to show you a way that you can do this a little better. Now, this is just my interpretation. I am not a bestseller. This is just some of the things that I would add to the story, or just some kind of brainstorming things that I've added into the story. But so we take Three Little Pigs, and I've made an alternate version of the Three Little Pigs here, and it's slightly more in depth. There's a lot more going on here, and I think it makes for a better story. But you'll be the judge. And hey, if you have any ideas, you know, we can kind of play this fast and loose a little bit. You can give me some ideas to make Three Little Pigs better, but that'll be down the road just a little bit. Let me kind of explain my version here. So one of the first things I want to note is in Plottr, this line is pinned. And why that's important is because when you get down to the bottom here, it's easy to lose those top ones, and especially those top ones that are usually the most important ones. You probably want to see those all the time you're working on them. So I like to pin this top one up here so that even when I'm down here in the weeds with some of these lesser characters or just less important things, I don't lose track of where I am in the story, and I can still follow that along. And you can pin more than one. So if I wanted to pin that one, I could have those two up there. So that's how Plottr helps you to do that. So as you can see here, I've added a lot more lines to this, but I really haven't changed the core of the story here. I haven't really changed the Three Little Pigs, how they blow down the houses and stuff like that. I've kept that all the same. It's the same thing that you saw earlier. It's just adding more depth to each of the characters. So you can just flip back and forth, and I'm going to start with Pig 3 because he's kind of the leader of his brothers, and we can use him to demonstrate some interesting things about seeing a character's arc. Now, when a character changes, it's not a linear change. It's not like this constant progression where he's just like always getting better. There's lots of ups and downs, and it's not just one aspect of the character that is getting better. And it depends on the story, but it's not just okay, now he has gotten over his childhood trauma and that's it. You know, it's not just that changes, and maybe it is for your story, but usually there's a lot of aspects about your character that are changing throughout the story. You know, if they go through a traumatic event, there's going to be lots of things that change them, and usually stories are about traumatic events, either them going through one or overcoming the emotional effects of one. But anyway, so this line I've left the same. This is exactly like we had it before. Leaves home, makes a house of bricks, and so forth. But I've got an extra 2 lines for him, and I've color coded them to be the same color as his. But it doesn't have to be. You know, it could be whatever color you want it to be. And to change colors, we just click on this tint button, and you've got an array of colors that you can choose from. But there's a couple different ways that you could do this, or ways that I thought of that you could do this, but I'm sure you could do this in different ways. But one way is to use numbers. So this first line is his courage, which is going to change over the course of the story, and his confidence in himself. We could probably have another line in here um, for like what he wants to do with himself in his life, because I think that's part of his story in this. But so you could either do this with numbers of like his courage is going up and down. And so we've used this line to show it with numbers. And this one, we've just used words to describe where he's at in his state, or in what state he's in, or what state his confidence is in that chapter. So at first, when he leaves home, his confidence goes up, or sorry, his courage goes up, but his confidence is shaky. He's unsure about himself, his skills, and what he wants to do with himself in his life. And then when he makes a house out of bricks, it doesn't really affect his courage, but it does affect his confidence. His confidence grows. He's like, man, I just built a house out of bricks. That's pretty impressive. And he like bangs the wall a little bit, and like, man, that's pretty solid. That's not going anywhere. I built this thing. How cool, right? So his confidence goes up. And then when the wolf comes by, he starts his courage starts going down. His confidence doesn't really change, but his courage starts going down a lot. And it just keeps going down, down, down. Certain things make it go down more than others, but it's just going down. And then when he gets to the wolf can't blow down his house, his brick house, his courage goes way up. And you know what? I bet his confidence grows even more too. Grows even more. So his confidence and his courage are up and to the right, because the wolf can't break down his house, can't blow down his house. But then the wolf starts climbing up his chimney, right? And he starts losing courage. He gets scared. But his confidence actually starts going up because he built a brick house. And darn it, he can defend that house. So even though he's shaking his boots a little, he thinks he can do this. And he ends on a positive note for both of them. Because he beats the wolf, his courage is way up, and his confidence is way up because of what he's able to achieve in this story. And like I said, there maybe could be another line here of what he wants to do with himself in his life. Maybe he realizes he should be a house builder. Maybe that's his calling. He makes good houses. They can defend against wolves. He's even got like a marketing slogan there, like stops any wolves in the area or something. But yeah, so maybe that could be another line for him that shows he's figured out what he wants to do with his life. So that's one pig, and that's one way that you could do this, with numbers or with words. And if you have any other ideas for other ways you could do this, I'd love to hear that, or if you do it differently. So then I've got a couple other lines here that are in this color, and they're about the brothers' relationship. Both of them are, and then so I've coded them that way. And their relationship starts that it's fallen apart. And maybe that's why they actually leave home. They're sick of living together. They're not sharing their PlayStation well enough, not giving each other time to play or something like that. They're just getting on each other's nerves, and they're sick of each other. And so like, I'm out of here. Yeah, me too. So they move out. So maybe the relationship is pretty rocky when they leave. And it only gets worse when they start building houses, because pig number 3, building this brick house, it takes a long time. He's being very careful about it. He looks over at his other brother who built the straw house, and that guy's already playing PlayStation in there. He's got a couch and he's just relaxing, having a good old time, right? So he's like, man, what an idiot. That house is going to fall over in 10 seconds. He should have taken the time to do this right. Whereas pig 1 is thinking, man, my brother's such an idiot. Why take all this time working so hard? I can play PlayStation all day already. I've got everything I need. So each one thinks less of each other, and just their relationship is on the rocks even more because of the way that they see each other, building houses and interacting with the world, right? But then the wolf comes by and they band together like never before. So we don't give a lot of detail here, and we should fill this out more when the wolf is blowing down pig one's house. What does pig three do? It looks like here, since his courage is going down, he's just hiding. So he's just hiding in his house, kind of cowardly, right? Because his courage is going down. Maybe pig two is like uh, calling in his brother, like, get over here. I'm not going to let you die. Something like that. Maybe he's not thinking of the courage aspect. He just like wants to save his brother, So maybe their relationship is strained in some ways, and maybe we should even have another line here for the relationship between pig one and two, and the relationship between pig two and pig three. We could easily do that, and because maybe the relationship between and also one and three. No, I said that. I covered that one, I think. Anyway, so yeah, a relationship for each one or a line for each one of the relationships. And some of them are strained here, and maybe some of them are strengthened because pig two is like, come in here, I'm going to save you, But then finally, when they get in the house of pig three, they're hugging each other, and like, man, we really dodged a bullet there. And then, the wolf comes, and he's not going to be dumb enough to try. Oh, he's going to blow down this house. Oh no. But then he can't blow down the house. And so they're relaxing, like, okay, whew. And then this is actually turning into the audiobook version of The Three Little Pigs. Sorry, I didn't mean to go into this much detail, but the wolf starts to climb the chimney, right? And so what do the brothers do? They don't have a good history. They don't have a good track record. They haven't had a strong relationship for very long. So they fall back into the normal pattern and they start fighting again. Pig three says, I'm not going to trust him. He built a straw house. What does he know about defending houses or, doing anything responsible? So I'm not going to believe him. And pig one, thinks he's the most creative, intelligent guy, something like that. And then it actually works. They finally come up with a plan, and it actually works. And they become best friends. Like, yeah, you know what? We're pretty good together as brothers, like we can actually pull together when we need to. And so they end, maybe this is an exaggeration, maybe not best friends, but better friends than when they started, so that's the arc in their relationship. There were some ups and downs, and we're able to describe that here in Plottr. And I was just thinking that I didn't read these very well. So if it was blurry, sorry, I've been saying them mostly, but I haven't really been making an effort to read them. So I'm sorry, but if you haven't been able to read them very well because it's a little blurry, then I haven't been saying them, but I'll do a better job of pointing that out from now on. So the next line here is this running joke that I've got going. And that's another aspect of characters, is these setup, and not just for characters, but in a story, there's setups and payoffs. And those are really valuable because you'll see by the end here that they help the reader feel like the story is complete if you do it right. And so we've started this running joke, or this saying that their mom has, that getting boiled is the worst way to go. So that's what this one says right here. Getting boiled is the worst way to go. Maybe their whole childhood, she's saying that. And I don't know, it's just always the thing she reminds them. Maybe they get a scraped knee or something. She's like, well, at least it's not getting boiled. That is the worst way to go, or something like that. It's just this thing that she always says to them. And we have to set that up at the beginning of the story. She has to say it as they're leaving the house or something like that. It's important to say that, because then at the end, when the wolf starts climbing the chimney, that is what gives them the idea for boiling him in the chimney. It comes to mind because they've heard it so much. Mom always says being boiled is the worst way to go. Let's do that. And then at the end, there's this moment where they beat the wolf and they're hugging each other, and pig one says, you know what? Mom was right. Being boiled is the worst way to go. or something corny like that, right? I mean, I could probably come up with a better joke, or maybe you could come up with a better joke. I don't know if I could, but this brings that full circle, and it completes kind of the theme. This becomes kind of a theme or a running joke in the story, and it's completed. And that, I think I said a user earlier, for a reader, that makes them feel like the story is complete. Something comes back to where it was at the beginning. Something is called back to from the beginning, and it gives this feeling of completion, of newness, because there's a new meaning to this, but it's oldness. Like, that's not a word. Old and new and complete. And so that's a really important aspect of your stories, these setups and payoffs. And when I was a young writer, I used to make payoffs all the time that didn't have solid setups. And it just kind of got lost in my story. Or I would start something at the beginning and I would never finish it. Like, and maybe I promised something at the beginning, but I'd lose track of that. After 80,000 words or 100,000 words, it'd just be hard to remember those little details. And then I would never come back to them and kind of complete the circle, and so it's really important. And Plottr makes that very easy to visually see that. Okay, I made these promises at the beginning. How can I pay that off at the end or in the middle or something like that, or build upon it in the middle and then bring it full circle at the end. And same kind of thing with the themes of the story. One of the themes of Three Little Pigs is hard work versus laziness. And so you'd have to do that with this theme as well. And so maybe Pig 3 always had all the responsibility. He had to do everything because he was oldest or something like that. And then as they're building houses, he's just kind of grumbling, I've always been the oldest, I'm doing all the hard work, and Pig 1 never has to be responsible for anything. And then you got to bring that full circle at the end. And I don't think I did a good job of this here in the theme. We could probably come up with a better idea for what this is, but maybe Pig 1 kind of learns a lesson. And we haven't been through his character arc yet, but maybe he learns something about hardworking, and he realizes, I should have built a stronger home. My brother was right, and I should have. So those are some of the things that you can do with Plottr, with layering in character arcs. And one of the coolest things about layering in these character arcs is, if you'll notice, this is not a lot of words. This is, I haven't written anything in here. This is just 5 words or 7 words here, and in total it's maybe 20 words. My point, though, is that it's very quick to do. It's a very easy process, and because it's so visual, you don't get lost in the weeds, and you can just think one at a time about each piece of the story of the brothers' relationship. Okay, how does their relationship change, and how can I make it fluctuate and have a good come full circle, and how does it actually develop over the course of the story? And so you're able to do that very easily, very quickly. And this took me like 10 minutes to come up with. It was not very hard. And each line by itself doesn't add a lot to the story, but when added all together, we definitely have a better sense of these characters and their motivations and their character arc. And it's starting to become at least something of a more powerful story, where we've got Pig 3's courage and confidence that are being developed, and Pig 1 is learning that he needs to work hard and actually listen to his brothers, because maybe they do have some good ideas. And Pig 2 realized that he's more courageous than he thought, and he's willing to risk being eaten by a wolf to save his brother. So we're getting a little bit more of that, and all we've done is just one layer at a time. It's a very simple, thin layer. This is not very developed. You could probably spend way more time developing this, but even this little bit just adds way more depth to your character. And it's actually kind of interesting to see that the more lines you have, the more, and this is not 100% true, but it's kind of like the more layers, the deeper they are. And so this is also a visual representation maybe of how deep the story is. And I never thought about that before, actually. But there's one more character we have to talk about, who's the wolf. And before we talk to him, there's one more thing. Before we talk about him, there's one more thing in here, because if you've ever read Robert McKee's books about, I can't remember if it's in dialogue or story, but he talks about how exposition can be bullets. And what he means by that is, um, if you give the right information about a character at the right time, it will really impact your reader big time. Just a little bullet will make a big impact if you do it at the right time. So if you reveal information at the right time, it's going to make a big impact. And so Plottr makes it really easy to decide where you want to reveal that information. And it kind of makes me think that every story is a mystery. So every character at the beginning, you don't know much about them, and you're slowly learning about them, kind of like a mystery. You've got clues here and there you're finding. And then at some point, you find something about them that really changes your perspective on them. And this should happen probably for every major character, and maybe even a couple of the supporting characters, depending on your story. It doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to happen for every character, but the more characters you do this with, the more your readers get invested in that character. So, for example, we've got a real good one, I think, for here, for Pig One. So it turns out that Pig One has cancer. And if you don't know that at the beginning, if you don't explain that at the beginning, maybe if you just hint at it, or just say that he used to be sickly, or that he's been sick lately, or something like that, but you don't say it. You just wait for the right moment to explain that he has cancer. And then you can use that and decide where is the most impactful moment for that knowledge. So is it the very end, when they're all living happily after, and he's like, you know what, brothers, I never told you this, but I went to the doctor last week, and I have cancer. Maybe not. Maybe you can do that, and maybe in a comedy that would be a good way to do it, or if you're setting up book 2 or something. But I'm thinking, at least for this one, that's probably not the most impactful place. And we can debate about where the most impactful place is. I'm not even going to try and decide right now. But just know, and what I'm trying to convey is that for each character, there's usually one or a few things about them that you don't want the reader to know right away. You want them to find it out eventually. And so finding the right place for the reader to find that out is really going to make a big impact. And you can play with this too. Like, as you're running through the story, or you can be telling somebody the story, and running through each character's character arc, and then slip that in and say, and you find out he has cancer, and gauge the reaction, or something like that. Maybe that's going a little too far, but you can think about where this is going to have the most impact, and you can drag this around and play with this and make this very easy to figure out where that most impactful moment is going to be. So I spent way more time on that than I expected, but the next person, or the next character we have to talk about, is the wolf. And I think he's actually the most interesting character. And that, I think, is something that happens in a lot of stories, or maybe should happen in a lot of stories, where the villain is often, or could be, the most interesting character. And every story is different, right? But I think what I'm just saying is that the villain doesn't get the care that he should with his backstory a lot of times. A lot of times we kind of gloss over that, or don't show it at all, and it's just like, boom, he's there, he's a villain, you should know he's bad. But when you show his backstory, you're able to do fun things with your readers. And what I mean by that is, maybe you can make them root for the villain, but then, you know what, they realize he really is the villain, or you can mess around with that and play with that. So we're going to add some of those things to the wolf story here, and this is just one possibility. You can maybe do this lots of different ways, but this line right here, I haven't done anything to. It's just the same as before. And then this one, I've called the wolf's hope for his family. And so his family is the main driver for him, for his actions in this story. And you'll see why that changes his character arc big time. We'll see if I can make you root for the wolf here by the end. So before he comes on the scene, this is his backstory. He lost his job. And so he's got no money, no food for his 3 starving kids. He's got a wife and kids. His 3 kids are coming home from school just starving and like, is there any food here? No, your dad hasn't been working for a while. There's nothing to eat. And he's just depressed and feeling useless and just kind of watching TV, maybe drinking there at home. And then his wife says, no, this is not going to fly. Go find us some food or else. And she just gives the or else. If you're familiar with that, that's a scary phrase. So he leaves like a smart person would, and he starts looking for food. And he sees a possible solution with the pigs. He's like, everybody likes bacon. You know, pigs are not that fast. I could catch them. This should be pretty easy. I can go get some food for my kids. But it turns out they have a house and he can't catch them. And pig 1 runs into his house to hide. But let's say he just he gets mad or whatever, starts huffing and puffing after racing and trying to catch him, or for some reason he starts huffing and puffing and he blows the house down. And he doesn't get the pig because the pig runs to another house. But man, he just blew down a house. He didn't know he could do that before. He's never done that. He's never blown down a house. So he failed, but he also learned something about himself. So then he goes to the next house, a little more confident, and he doesn't try as hard to catch the pig. The pig gets into the house. This drives home the need for a wolf social safety net. That is very funny. Good comment. So then he doesn't get the pig, but he's like, no problem. I can blow down this house, and then I'll have 2 chances to catch a pig. So he blows down the house, even though it's made of sticks. He's confident now. He's blowing down the house, and he's even more confident now. I blew down a stick house. There's nothing stopping me. I can get food for my family. He's on a high, you know, he thinks he can do anything. And then he gets the brick house, and because he's so arrogant, I guess at this point, he starts blowing down the house or blowing at the house, and it doesn't blow down. So that completely crashes his the pride in himself, and he has a hopeless moment. Maybe this is his dark night of the soul. And have you ever thought of a villain having the dark night of the soul? Maybe yours should. Maybe most of your characters should. Not always, and it doesn't fit for every character. I'm not trying to recommend that or anything, but I'm just telling you to think about the character arcs more, is all. So he's hopeless. All hope is lost, right? He has that moment. And then he gets a call from his wife. He didn't know wolves had cell phones, but they do. His wife calls him, and she says, you have 1 hour to bring us food, or I'm going to my parents' house. Taking the kids, I'm leaving, I'm going to my parents' house, and we're done. So this gives him a lot of motivation. And this is why he climbs up that chimney. It doesn't really describe why he doesn't try breaking in a window. And maybe we do have something else we need another line for him. We need something else. Why does he not break in a window? Why does he climb the chimney? Maybe his dad was a chimney sweep. That's the first thing that came to mind. His dad was a chimney sweep. He climbed chimneys as a kid. But that's something we could add as another line here. And so that is one of those setups and payoffs. Why does he climb the chimney? It pays off. We have to set that up beforehand. And actually, that's something I should have done here. So I'm just going to do this here. The wolf's backstory, or we could call it whatever. But I'm going to color that one green. We're going to drag this up there. It's actually a good idea. I usually don't get good ideas on these things. I'm too nervous, but this time I've been getting some good ideas about this story. I'm going to write this story someday. I'm going to write like the best Three Little Pigs story. So I've talked about this story so much. Okay, so his dad was a chimney sweep. And this is one of those bullets of information that we got to find the right place for. And, you know, I'm not even going to attempt to find that right now so that I don't look dumb in front of you guys. But I think somewhere here, it's got to be somewhere in the beginning. If it's too late in the story, it will feel too contrived. So it's got to be somewhere here in the first few scenes, maybe while he's sitting on the couch. At this point, it's years of Three Little Pigs backstory. Yes, it is. So maybe while he's sitting on the couch, maybe there's a commercial for chimney sweeps. Maybe even sees his dad on the commercial. Yeah, that's what it is. He sees his dad on a commercial. His dad runs a chimney sweep business. He sees his dad's commercial, and he remembers those times that he was a chimney sweep with his dad, and he really doesn't want to. He's like, I don't want to go back to that life. I know my dad would give me a job, but I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to sit here on the couch, for whatever reason. We could dig into his psychology even more, but so his dad was a chimney sweep. He sees his dad's chimney sweep commercial. Thinks about how he doesn't want to do that again. And we've turned this into a live plotting session. Sorry about that. But so that's why he decides to climb the chimney instead of breaking a window to get in or some other way, busting down the door or something. So he climbs the chimney. Maybe at some point here in his hopeless moment, he's thinking about going back to his dad or something. And so that's what gives him that, combined with his wife's call, gives him the motivation to find the food, climb the chimney, and get food for his kids. But he doesn't. He doesn't do it. He doesn't get it. And so what does he do? Normally in the story, he runs away or something. We don't know much about the wolf afterwards. And so I've just written down here that he cries and sobs and slinks away. For the people that can't see that because it's blurry, that's what it says. He cries and sobs and slinks away. But that doesn't feel like a satisfying ending for this character. And that's okay. Not every character has to have a satisfying ending. Some just lose, and the villain is often in that role where he just loses. But maybe after getting to this story, you realize that this story is just act one for the rest of the wolf story. And so that's why I have these dots here, these 3 dots. And you can't see that on the blurry screen, but it's 3 dots, meaning there should be more. And so maybe this story is actually just act one of a larger story for the wolf. And that could come in book 2. Maybe we finished the first book, and the first book was actually about Pig 3, so he's the main character, but it sets it up for book 2 about the wolf. Maybe he's got more of a story to tell, and you do that in book 2. Or maybe you write the rest of that in this story. Okay, somebody has a good idea here. So, and then the wolf's wife is left in poverty with the 3 pups and plots revenge on the 3 little pigs. I love that, actually. Oh, that's brilliant. That's great. Yes, that is very cool. So yeah, then she becomes the villain after. Okay, that's brilliant. Good job, Terry. I appreciate that. So we've been through the story in immense depth, more depth than I planned to go into. But so I told you before that this is kind of a very basic way to plan out your characters. And this is a more detailed way. So let's call the first one that I showed level 1 of planning characters. This is level 2 of planning characters for a story. There's another level, and that is using the series view to plan them out in a whole series. And if you're not writing a series, that's fine. If it's just a one-off story, that's totally fine. There's no problem with that. But the next level of planning a character is trying to see how book 1 plays into the larger story of the whole series. And so this series view in Plottr will let you start playing with that. So we've got book 1, the Three Little Pigs, and we've got book 2 and 3, The Wolf Strikes Back and Revenge of Mother Pig. But based on Terry's suggestion here, maybe this should be Revenge of Wolf's Wife or something like that. I don't know. We'll have to see. But we're able, so in book 1, the wolf fails miserably. And the pig 3 learns that he can build houses and he can beat wolves. Let's say that's what he learns, right? So then between book 1 and book 2, pig 3 starts hunting wolves. That's like his job. He starts hunting them down, saving people from other wolves. And because of that, he becomes a little prideful. He thinks too much of himself, that he can beat any wolf out there. And the wolf hatches a plan. He is the original wolf, and he's the alpha wolf maybe or something. And he realizes The Wolf Widow, A Tale of Three Pigs and Revenge. I like where this is going, guys. So the wolf hatches a plan, or maybe it's here his wife hatches a plan or something like that. Maybe we should play that. But then in book 2, The Wolf Strikes Back, the wolf is the hero. Or maybe the wolf's wife is the hero. We're going to leave that up for debate in the comments. But one of the wolves is the hero because they hatch a plan and they strike back. And they humble pig 3 and they beat him real bad, But pig 3's character arc is not finished. He started out by learning a valuable lesson, by leaving home, and he learned what to do with his life. But he went too far. He was too arrogant and he was humbled. And then he realizes that he wants to dedicate his life to serving his mother. So that is the end of his character arc. He's realized that there's a higher purpose to his life, and that higher purpose is serving his mother in her retirement or her old age or something like that. And he's going to be there with her to the end. And if you want to write that story, go ahead and figure out how Pig 3 decides to dedicate his life to serving his mother after being humbled by the wolf. I will leave that up to you to write. But that is level 3 of planning a character through a larger story where there's multiple books involved. And so all that, hopefully you've learned a lot of different things about how to use Plottr to develop your characters. And hopefully you read The Three Little Pigs a little bit differently now. And hopefully one of you will, when you write a great Three Little Pigs story, you will at least put me in the credits somewhere and say that I inspired you to write this. But with that, I will open it up. I've got like 2 minutes left, but we'll take some questions if there are any. And yeah, we'll take some questions. And if there's no questions, that's fine. We can just end early. That's totally fine with me. Just going to give a minute here for any questions. I really do appreciate your guys' comments. That made it so much more fun. Just your little ideas here and there. That made this really fun. So I really appreciate that. And I seriously am going to use some of these ideas the next time I present this. Okay, so here's a question. How many lines or rows have you ever added to a plot? Me personally, I haven't counted, so I don't know. Looking at this one, this is pretty close to the most I've ever added. But this is, you kind of have two main characters and a couple side characters. So, I mean, yeah, I may have added a few more lines in this, but this is about it. Which now that I'm thinking about that, I feel like there should be more if it's going to be a longer story, you know. But I've seen people that have a whole lot more. I've seen people that have something like 40 lines on here. I think that's the most I've ever seen. And Troy says, I'm pleading the fifth. Yeah, I want to know that too. I don't think so. I'm not as much of a writer as I would like to be. I'm still, I write very slowly, and so I'm just, yeah, I'm getting there. But some people write a lot more than me, and I know they've done more lines, but I think 40 is the most. So next question, does the info in each row show up in the chapter at the top? So I'm trying to understand what you mean there. Oh, okay, so I see what you mean. So I think what you're asking is, do all these things show up here in this first one? And the answer is no, it doesn't. But yeah, there are a lot of different point of views in the rows. And you could tell this story all from the same point of view. Well, no, I guess you couldn't. I guess you'd have to have multiple different point of views. Yeah, you're right. But yes, those things do not all like roll up to being in the top. But what I will say is, looking at the outline, you're able to take each chapter, or in this case, scene. I've called them scenes, but they could be chapters, whatever. And all those things are in a very easy way for you to rearrange. And the order that you see them in here is not going to be the order that they show up in this. So if you take a vertical slice, they're not going to show up in that order in this this scene or this chapter, right? But so that's what the outline is for, to be able to say, okay, in this scene, what actually comes first? How am I actually going to start this scene? And so honestly, if I were going to write this, I think I'd have to make a separate scene for the wolf stuff, because like you said, it is a different point of view. So we'd make a separate scene for that. And then we could even turn the interaction at home probably into a couple scenes, depending on how deep we want to go. But the point of this is to rearrange this and to be able to see very easily everything in your scene. And that's kind of getting at what I think you were asking. And if it's not, feel free to tell me. But I think that's kind of getting at what you were hoping for, to be able to see everything in the scene in one kind of glance. So if that didn't answer your question very well, feel free to sound off in the comments. But yeah, exactly. So that's a really good thing to call out here. Not all of this makes it onto the page, but you as the writer need to know all this stuff, so that you can use it as you see fit. So yeah, good call out there, Julie. Okay, with that, we're going to end right here so that we have a break between this and the next session. Yep, there's the link for the next session that'll start at the top of the hour. That's our last session for today, and it is one of those pre-recorded ones, so you won't see my smiling face here. You will see us in the comments, so feel free to ask us questions. We'll be watching right along with you and answering any questions as they come along. So thanks, and we'll see you tomorrow at PlottCon. It's in the morning for us here in the eastern half of the United States, and early morning for people on the western side of the United States. But we'll see you then. Thanks, guys.